Welcome to the Monday Monologue. Today we're finishing up a long week of R8 content, and I've spent God knows how many hours editing video and trying to get this content out, mainly too because I needed to get the amplifier back to the owner. And so we've got that finished up. I've got probably 2 more videos. I want to do the global negative feedback video, which was enlightening, and then I want to do a kind of recap of the whole series of here are the important things. You know, if you want to do like a minimalistic thing, here are the must-dos, here's the nice-to-haves, here are the things that really made a difference, and then here are the things that, you know, if you want to just kind of go all out. So anyway, we're going to be finishing that up hopefully this week, but then we need to jump on our 6P1. This is a long overdue project, and I've struggled with what to do with this little amp. I mean, it sounds pretty decent once you do my front end mod, but it really doesn't have much power, and it's got parallel pentodes that are wired in triode mode that should be able to make some decent power. I think the root of all evil with this amp is this power transformer. It's, first of all, it's the wrong voltage rating, and so you have to run a bucking transformer with it. It also overheats. It's limited on the amount of current that it can supply to the output tubes, which then, of course, limits the power potential of the whole amplifier. So I think the solution to the next step of this is replace this power transformer. And I know I'm not going to be able to find a laydown one like this. I'm going to have to go with just your normal vertical Hammond style transformer. I mean, I've looked before. There's nothing in this style easily available, and I'm not going to go to, you know, China Hi-Fi or one of those sites looking for another made in China power transformer. We're not doing that. So I'm going to figure out how to modify this to put a standard Hammond transformer on here that has enough milliamp rating to do what I feel like we need to do to get this thing to its rated power, which I think was 6.8 watts, and it actually makes less than 2. If I can get this thing to 6 watts, this will be a pretty cool little amplifier. And again, I don't think there's any way to do this on like a super budget, just going in and replacing some resistors, because again, the root of all the problems with this amp to me is this weird power transformer and all the weird voltages and overheating and stuff that it causes. So, gonna kind of figure that out later today, get the parts on order, and we'll start the video series on the 6P1 and try to knock this thing out and turn this into something decent without losing its sound signature. The other project, as you can see here, I'm going to get into some DIY speaker stuff. This is a kit that I got off Amazon, and I'm not quite sure about it yet. I don't like the way that it's assembled with beveled edges. That's going to make it difficult to do without having like 15 wood clamps and 3 people holding things while you're putting it together. So, gonna dive into this. I may have to, you know, figure out some tricks to make this easier to assemble without owning a dozen wood clamps, which I don't. And I'm not gonna go out and buy another 6 or 8 clamps to be able to do this the way they're suggesting. Anyway, I think this is gonna be fun. I've got another DIY kit that I've never put together that's sitting upstairs, which we'll also kind of do. So we may get into some DIY speaker stuff for a bit, which should be fun. Had somebody send me a really nice looking tube preamp that I'm going to dive into and just see what I think of it and do a little review on it. I don't think it specifically has any problems, but I need to like just look at it and see what I think of it and give a review of that. Somebody's contacted me about sending me a Wilsonton R, I think it's 800, which is the 300B version of their amp. And somebody else was asking about the 300. And I think we're still in negotiation on that. They may be donating one to my channel that's got some issues. But anyway, those should be fun. I really like these Wilsonton products as a starting point. And again, as you can see from my R8 video, there are some design problems with that amplifier. And I mean, they sound okay out of the box, but all these China amps could use some love. The other thing that I want to talk about today is what I see people arguing about on the internet about X tube sounds like Y, or this tube sounds better than that tube. And I think one of the things that a lot of people are missing is that there's more to all of this than just, say, the amplifier or the tube. Or even like, these speakers sound better than those speakers. It's a combination of a synergy of your whole system. And a great example of this, when I was fine-tuning the global negative feedback on that R8 amp, I tried a combination that to me sounded a little dead. And it looked good on the scope, but it just didn't, I don't know, it lost some of its life. And so I went back a step on that capacitor to what I delivered to my friend. Well, when we put that amp in his house, his room, with his clip speakers that are similar to mine, but they're obviously a little different, then the amp sounded a little too bright. And it probably would have been perfect with those capacitors that I thought sounded a little dead in my system. But my room's got a more soft kind of, fabric in the room. It's got the couches and stuff, and the speaker placement, and the kind of speakers, and my source. And there's so many things that weigh into all of this, it's hard to sit here and say definitively, here's what this sounds like. And that's another reason I get comments now and then. People are like, why don't you put sound clips in with your video? Guys, that's not going to tell you anything about what this is going to sound like in your house. And even if I'm comparing A and B, never mind that you're going to be listening to my phone, the encoding, or the microphone, or whatever I'm using to record the sound, and then once it's uploaded to YouTube, and where the microphone is in the room, and all that stuff, it really doesn't tell you anything. And I know those are popular on YouTube, and I'd probably get more views on my videos if I uploaded sound clips. But I'm just not going to cave into that, because I think that that is a waste of everyone's time. And while maybe it has some entertainment value, there's no educational value. And that's what I'm trying to do, is educate people about the realities of audio systems. So again, when you hear me talk about, this tube sounded really good, or, this capacitor value sounded good to me, you have to realize in your house, with your speakers, and with your source, and with your phono stage, and with your cartridge, and with your CD deck or your DAC, and how the DAC's set up, it may sound horrible. And so a lot of this is just trial and error, unfortunately. And it's not like you can buy tubes to roll and then return them if you don't like the way they sound. I guess you could sell them on eBay, but again, that's just part of this hobby, is, that striving for perfection. So anyway, that was just a point I wanted to drive home, that a lot of times when I talk about things, or circuit redesigns, or modifications to an amp, I may be saying, try anything from a 110 to a 330 PF and listen to it. And I did the same thing on some of my other amps, like that 6SQ7. Here's this shade feedback resistor. It can be anywhere from a 300 to a 750K. Try different ones and listen to them. In my house, I think I ended up with a 470K. I've had people respond 300K sounded great to me. Other people even said like 850K sounded better, outside of the range. Some of this is experimenting. And so if you're not willing to do that, and you're looking for, hey, I can just plug this in and it's going to work, that's not the reality of audio gear and getting a good sounding system that you're going to enjoy. So anyway, I do have kind of a project list. Like I said, the 6P1 is next on my list. Probably this DIY speaker. I want to build this 2A3 amp. I've got all the parts here, the iron and everything to do that. I'm really excited to hear what a 2A3 amp sounds like. In the future, I want to build a KT120 high-powered push-pull amp. Even though I don't need it, I think that's going to be a popular thing, and I just want to do it. And I've got the KT120 tubes and transformers and all here to do that. I just got to figure out what schematic I'm going to use. So I am kind of overwhelmed with projects, so some of this stuff probably isn't going to come out as fast as some of you guys would like, but just hang in there. We're going to keep rolling and try to get this stuff done. So anyway, if you're enjoying my channel and you enjoy this content, please subscribe. Also, if you haven't joined my Patreon, that would help a lot. I'm going to have to go out and buy a power transformer for this 6P1 to make it work. Buying these speakers that honestly I don't even really need, but I thought it would be good content for the channel. So that's very helpful. There's a donation page at my website. If you feel so inclined, drop a few bucks via PayPal there. And again, if you can't afford it, that's fine. But please subscribe. That doesn't cost you anything. And like the video. The other thing you can do to help me out, and I saw a YouTuber talking about this, is go to the YouTube search something like Wilsonton R8, and then when the videos pop up, find mine and click on it. And that helps kind of game the algorithm to say that, hey, that's what people, when they're searching for a Wilsonton R8, it moves it up in the search thing. And it's just the same way the Google search engine works. So some of you guys can go do that kind of thing for me, is search some common things about, 300B video or whatever, and find mine and click on them. That'll help get my channel rolling. So again, thanks for your support, and we'll see you next week for the Monday Monologue.